I'm a different leader in franchising than I was
Okay.
before. I think coming in here, and it probably didn't happen right away either. It probably took me 2 years to figure out, I was like, ooh, I better
Yeah.
change some things here. This isn't going to go well.
Welcome to Franchise Leader Spotlight. I'm Katherine LeBlanc. This series highlights the leaders shaping franchising today, how they built their careers, what they're focused on now, and what they believe is coming next for the industry. Let's dive in. Brought to you by my podcast host. Today's conversation is with Chris Walls, President and CEO of Go Minis. Hey, Chris, welcome to the show today.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm going to jump right in with a question around your current priorities and, kind of what you're thinking about for this year as you plan out the rest of 2026. So, what are you choosing to double down on this year? And if you're successful, what do you think is going to happen?
That's a great question. So it's always, I'm looking forward. 26, I'm really optimistic about it. We've started really strong
Hmm.
and we want to continue the growth that we have from there. But what we're really, really focusing on is getting our franchisees to use all the tools that we've built.
Okay.
So
Yes.
it's kind of like it was a theme at our conference at the end of 25,
Hmm.
and we're doubling down on that in 26 and
Hmm.
going forward.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's like we believe we put out this tech stack, we've put out all the tools they need to be successful. All they
Hmm.
need to do is pick them up and use them,
Yeah.
and they will be. So one of the major things we're focusing on is closing rate. So for the
Okay.
longest time, it was like, well, my marketing wasn't working. We've refined that.
Hmm.
We have some great tools. We use Scorpion. They have Revenue Max where people can see where their marketing dollars are really doing their best
Hmm.
and make some changes for that sort of thing. We have plenty of leads. Where I think our franchisees need to do a little better, and we're going to help them,
Hmm.
is closing the people that call. The market has changed so much from a year ago, even 2 years ago,
Hmm.
and it continues to evolve. Consumers are very picky. And the bottom line is you have to have closers on the phone.
Yeah.
They have to ask for the business. They have to be empowered to, hey, if I need to knock off,
Hmm.
give someone a discount to compete with someone, they need to be empowered to be able to do that. So the closing rate for us, which we now have data where we can see that,
Yeah.
is that we're taking our closing rate. I'd love to increase our closing rate another 10%. And, then that's our stretch goal.
Hmm.
If I get 5%, I'm happy.
Hmm.
And the result of that is our franchisees aren't going to have to spend more money on the marketing.
Hmm.
They're not going to really have to hire anyone else. They're not going to have to even buy more containers, although I'd like them to do that.
Yeah.
I think it would be good for everybody. But they're going to increase their bottom line
Hmm.
with the things they have right now. And what
Hmm.
we're doing with that is we're trying to educate our franchisees on like, hey, your closing rate is here. If you just took it to here, and this is what it's going to do your bottom
Hmm.
line with tangible. It's like, hey, here's top line revenue. Here's what we believe the bottom line will do as a result of it.
Yeah.
And that's where we're really focusing on that. And we're doing that with training. We're doing that with personal visits. And we're putting out some marketing campaigns internally to
Right.
say, hey, you should be doing this.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and it's interesting because the conversations that I'm having with marketers is exactly that. The cost of customer acquisition is increasing. The slice of your dollars need to be split up in multiple different ways today that wasn't happening last year. And we can't ask franchisees to continue to spend to fill this pipeline. And instead, the conversation is turning to that conversion rate. And what are we doing with the leads that we're getting, and how are we servicing them? So I think that focus is certainly in line with what I've been hearing. The
yeah.
focus of those, at least from a marketing perspective, what is happening.
Our leads were up 10% last year. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay,
Yeah.
but our business we grew,
Mm-hmm.
but it could have grown so much more.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
like, hey, the focus on that is like the marketing's working. Now,
Mm-hmm.
next in a couple of months, maybe it's not, but right now the marketing is working because you know how it changes.
That's right. Yeah.
But the marketing's working. So
Yeah.
now you just got to focus on how do I close that
Yeah.
business? And it's just it's not that difficult. It's just a change in focus where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
when someone answering the phone is like, no, their job is to sell and their job is to close, as opposed to someone who's more, I'm an order taker or I'm just
Okay.
here to
Interesting.
facilitate
Yeah.
an administrator type thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's more of a sales focus, and
Right.
it is a shift in the mindset. You mentioned new tools, and another theme that I've been hearing about is kind of change management, introducing new tools, but then driving the adoption of those new tools down. Can you tell me about how you're managing change management within the Go Minis organization?
Yeah, I think that's one of our greatest challenges, right?
Hmm.
And it's something that I learned in my journey in leading the company is that franchisees don't love change for a number of reasons. Some are very valid. Some maybe it's a fear, and they just have to get over it. But what we're really trying to do is, we have our best practices webinars, which we do
Hmm.
at least once a month, sometimes more than that. Internal marketing. So, for
Mhm.
example, one
Yeah.
of the things that we've introduced this year is something we call Mini Guard, which is our protection plan for your goods that are stored with us.
Mm,
It's a revenue enhancement for our franchisees,
mhm,
but more importantly, the customer has peace of mind. Their belongings are protected while they're stored with us.
mhm,
So it's a win-win. But we're having a little trouble for people saying, I don't feel comfortable doing that. So we're kind of educating. I was like, number
mhm.
one, here's what it could do to your top line, your bottom
Right.
line. Number two, it's great for the customer. And
Mhm.
maybe that's number one. you know,
Well,
and then
yeah.
and you go back. So it's a good customer experience
Mhm,
and it's good for you because it helps your bottom line.
mhm,
And so we're slowly getting adopted. What we're doing though is now we're educating both our franchisees so that they put that into their mix with the
mhm,
person that's answering the phone and
mhm,
as the salesperson,
mhm.
but we're also educating our consumers.
Yeah.
They didn't know it was there. So now
Mhm,
what we've done is, we do drip email marketing
mhm,
for folks to come and get a quote.
mhm,
The second email you get from us, like, do you know about MiniGuard? What is
mhm.
MiniGuard?
Yeah.
And we're starting to see
Mhm,
the uptake on that where each month we're growing a little bit. We're getting more and more of that.
mhm,
So I think by the end of the year, that should be a great revenue driver for our
mhm.
franchisees, help for us,
Yeah.
and again, a better customer experience.
Yeah, and like there's a couple of things there that I'd love to touch on. Number one is, in my experience in marketing through franchising, one of the best ways to drive franchisee adoption is to go direct to the consumer
Mhm.
and tell the consumer about the product, whatever it is that you're wanting to sell. Because when the franchisee is faced with the customer asking for it, at that point they're like, oh, the customer wants this. Trying to come at it from the other side is hard. It is change. And I think that especially in the culture that you're describing where, the sales culture maybe wasn't as prominent. It was more of an taker culture. Sometimes people feel like they are overselling or they're pushing and
Mhm.
that nobody wants to be pushy. And exactly to your point, educating those sales teams on the benefit to the customer and then educating the customer on the product helps kind of move that needle and drive it forward.
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
it's a changed behavior because
Mhm,
a few years ago, our folks didn't have to sell. It was just like,
mhm.
I'll take it because there was a lot of activity, and like people needed it in a hurry and that sort of thing. It's like, oh great,
Yeah.
boom, here you go. Oh, it's when you get somebody on the phone, if you don't sell them or you don't close them, they're going to the next guy on the
Mhm,
list
mhm,
and they're going to try and get their deal from there and they don't
mhm,
come back. And
mhm.
what was
Yeah.
happening before that we got one phone call and they booked a sale. Now they get the
Yeah.
phone call and they're not booking the sale.
Mhm,
And when you
mhm.
look at what that cost, that lead cost to get people to call and you have it right there and you don't close it, it's painful.
Yeah. Well, it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's so interesting? So Gomez is in the moving industry, and the moving industry obviously had a boom, around when the interest rates were lower, as was slowing down as the interest rates increase. Um, I would have to say that every industry, and being a fractional CMO, I've been part of every industry I can say over the last 6 years. Every industry has seen such significant change over the last 7 years, more compressed, I think, than any other period in time because usually change is gradual. Or, you might have an impact that is industry specific. And again, especially in marketing, because that's my background and that's what I do. This compression of change in the consumer and the stress around, well, what I was doing last year isn't working this year. And then to your point, okay, I think that you're probably one of the few industries that I've talked to that leads are actually up, but they're not you
Yeah.
have to change your behavior to close. It's got to be difficult to navigate from a leadership perspective on how are you setting priorities on an annual basis that are aligned in this really rapidly changing environment.
So I love change. I
Okay.
embrace change, much to my wife's chagrin, but
Uh-huh.
it's just something that I love. And I'm constantly kind of looking and seeing what we can do. So from our perspective, you're exactly right on the consumer preferences have changed. You just don't have the demand that you had before for moving because interest rates are up.
Mhm,
Real estate's been down in terms of number of transactions. So you
mhm,
don't have the consumers who need our product like
mhm,
they usually do. And, we're not seeing our cyclical seasonal spikes that we used to see either, where, it's
uh,
the classic moving season that you would have in the summer and,
mhm,
peaking in August or September. So what we've done is it's like, okay, well, that consumer's not there now. We can't create that demand.
right.
So we've gone out and we're really focusing on B2B. So
Mhm,
restoration companies and that sort of thing.
mhm,
So we looked at our customer mix and we're tracking that and we're trying to move that B2B customer,
mhm,
that mix much stronger. So
mhm,
what we've done at the corporate level, we've gone out and we've done a lot of national accounts. We call them
mhm,
national partnerships because when you say national accounts, sometimes the franchisees get the idea, it's like, "Oh, national account, my phone should be ringing. They should be calling me."
Mhm,
No, what we've done is we've cut deals with a lot of these restoration companies where we support them at their national conference or
mhm,
otherwise, and then we become an approved vendor for them.
mhm,
And
mhm,
then they'll send out marketing. We can do our own marketing directly to their franchisees. But what really
mhm,
has to happen is our franchisees need to get up and go knock on the door, and that door's open now.
mhm,
And it's
mhm,
not a cold call, it's a warm call. And
mhm,
they're expecting is like, oh, and we have, our marketing team has put together the collateral. So it says, hey, we're an approved vendor for such and such restoration company. We walk in and like, oh, I've been looking for an alternative. I was using, brand A.
mhm,
And
mhm,
it's like, wow, but they can't service me the way I need to. Can you guys get me containers, in the last minute? It's like, that's one of our specialties. We can
mhm.
do that.
Yeah,
But it's requiring the franchisee to change their behavior
yeah,
where like they used to sit back and wait for the phone to ring for
mhm,
the customer's call. Like, no, no, you need to go out there.
right.
And what's really, really interesting is we'll have a business coach go out and make some sales calls with them. And once which is, look, cold calling is one of the warm calling, one of the most difficult things in
Yeah.
business. Every time that coach goes out with a franchisee, he lands a new account for them.
Mm,
As like, is he the best salesman in the world? No, he's
mhm,
just doing it.
mhm,
And he's go out there, they go out and they see 10 people, and one of those guys becomes a new
mhm,
customer. You get them on the right day. And then hopefully our franchisees see this. Okay, it's not that hard. I just need to go out there
mhm,
and knock on these doors,
right.
introduce myself, tell them what we have, and my business will develop. And then all of a
Mhm,
sudden you're saying, wow, a percentage of my business is B2B, which the cost of customer acquisition on that is much, much less
right.
than your
Well,
typical
especially with
storage
the
customer.
support that the franchisor is providing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing about that is when you capture that moving customer, that's a one-off, and maybe they move once every 7
Mhm,
years. And maybe they're doing a project, let's say you get 2 rentals over 7 years. But this B2B, you're coming after that customer could be 10 a month, could
mhm,
be 100 a year
mhm.
rentals, just
Yeah.
depending on how big they are and what they have going on.
Mhm,
So it just makes more sense to focus over that. But
mhm.
again, we're trying to educate our franchisees to change their behavior
Yeah.
so it'll change their bottom line.
Yeah, you can't be stagnant,
Yeah.
especially in the changing environment that we're having. Now, we're talking a lot about your specific industry. Let's talk a little bit about the franchising industry. What are some things that franchisors are getting right now?
First of all, we're here at IFA,
Mhm,
and every time I come here, I'm just blown away
mhm,
with the growth of franchising in general
mhm,
and the stories that everyone has that comes out here. So I actually I didn't know a ton about franchising 6.5 years ago,
yeah,
and I fell in love with it. And like
mhm,
the entrepreneurial stories you hear, and you're saying, that's a great idea. Why didn't I think of it? That
yeah,
sort of thing. And you just see people go off and do those things.
mhm,
I think there's a lot of challenges we have from a legal perspective, and the IFA is doing a great job at trying to contain those challenges
mhm,
and get
mhm,
the laws enacted that are going to help protect franchising and
mhm,
how large it is.
mhm.
I think that the future is very, very bright for franchising.
Okay.
I really do. And if anybody is thinking about getting into
Yeah.
it, I would get into it. I'm heading up our Fran Dev now. So
Okay.
I'm talking
Yeah.
to a lot of folks.
Mhm,
They're coming from all different walks. I'm talking to an investment banker who has left his firm and is thinking about getting into franchising, and
mhm.
he's looking at a couple of things. One of the things he's looking at is us. Another gentleman who was a C-level employee in in the trucking industry.
Okay.
And then I'm talking to someone who's just coming out of the military and wants to
Yeah.
a mom and pop. Well, this year we opened our first company store, and so it's just you're looking at the growth opportunities, and you're
Mhm.
looking at how you can some of these people, the interesting people you get to meet, come in and that they can build something that
Right.
they can either sell or they can pass down to their
Mhm,
children or
mhm.
something along those lines. So
Well,
yeah,
it's they're building something for themselves.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and it's rewarding, I think, to see their growth and to see their success, and it's rewarding to be part of that success.
you know.
Yeah,
And
no, definitely.
we're trying Go Minis also, we're trying to figure out ways that we can get more people involved because there's a
Mhm,
high capital
mhm,
requirement to the
mhm,
containers that you need to get this up, but it's a slow build. But once you build it, it's a
mhm,
wonderful, wonderful business. So we're trying to figure out ways that we can overcome
mhm,
um, some of those barriers to get some more people in that
yeah,
might otherwise that would be great franchisees,
mhm,
but the capital is a little scary, or
mhm,
they
mhm.
just don't have it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's just interesting to hear different people navigating different challenges in that. And you mentioned you joined franchising 6.5 years ago when you joined Go Minis. I would love to hear kind of throughout your career. And because we know each other, I know your career kind of has gone here, there, and everywhere, and it's super interesting. I would love to hear kind of as you traversed to where you are today, what are some of the lessons that you might not have realized were lessons at the time?
Well, it's interesting. So for me, just kind of looking at how about my journey from kind of starting with Go Minis.
Mhm,
And franchising, I was familiar with, it used to be called the Uniform Offering Circular. Now it's called the FDD. So I was familiar with that a little bit. I had looked at some franchising in
Mhm.
my very career as
Yeah.
when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be when I grow up, which hopefully I'll figure out soon, sometime soon. But, just the transition of dealing with franchisees. And I was just at a keynote down there with Kat Cole, and she was talking about different things of trying to implement change. What's really interesting is franchisees don't like change.
Mm.
Didn't realize that. And sometimes it's because they're just fearful of something.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I have this and it's working. Don't change that because I don't want you to mess
Mhm.
it up.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just, fear of the unknown.
Mhm.
So you have to
Mhm.
educate them, that sort of thing. And like, so making that change for me, I was used to, I ran companies and different things and I was the boss. So I was like,
Yeah.
this is what we're doing and
That's
this
right.
is how we're going to do
Everybody
it.
go
And
do
you're going to do it.
it.
And now it's more collaborative
Yeah.
where you have to
Yeah.
go maybe talk to the franchisees.
Mhm.
Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think about that?
Mhm.
And there's, a little bit of consensus building
Mhm.
before you do it and trying to get those, early adopters so that you have this core of franchisees that think this is a good idea. It's going to talk to other franchisees because we have something
Mhm.
we call the coconut telegraph is like, and they all talk with each other. It's like, oh, that's not a very good idea. That's the
Right.
dumbest thing and that sort of
Yeah.
thing. And you've seen that theme. I think every brand goes through it,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
and it's kind of central.
Absolutely.
So I mean, I'll tell you what, the IFA has been helpful. Meeting with people like you who sit
Mhm.
on a number of different brands.
Mhm.
I'm on a board, a growth advisory board with Scorpion.
Mhm. Mhm.
And what's really interesting that we have some PE guys that are on there. So,
Mhm.
they're managing multiple brands, single brands like us, and some people in the middle.
Yeah.
And we had our first meeting in Dallas and we were talking about, where we think franchising is going and that sort of,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
we all had very, very similar issues. Somewhat comforting, like,
Yeah.
oh, it's not
Right.
me.
Yeah.
It's like, it's everybody. It's like,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
let's get together. How can we solve this for
Yeah.
everybody then?
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah. Well, and I think that change management, communication with franchisees,
Hmm.
franchisee adoption, all of those things are challenges in the industry. But the root to all of that is trust
Hmm.
and building trust with your franchisees, building trust in the franchisor franchisee relationship. I think, having witnessed the way that you build trust and specifically, you call out, you are building consensus and you are kind of getting that feedback loop, opening, you kind of have an open door policy with your franchisees. I think that all leads to that trust building that then can support the change management and the adoption
Yeah.
that comes through.
It,
Hmm.
it's difficult. It took a long time and we're not, we're still every day we're doing it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because some of the folks that work with us at the corporate office get frustrated too because
Mhm.
they want the franchisees to be successful.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so like, you can't be more invested in their business than the franchisees. And
Yes.
that's so as I said, so it's
That's
like,
hard.
how do we bring them along? And mention
Hmm.
communication. It's like when I first came in, it's like no one tells us anything. We over communicate. A lot of things don't get read. Just we still get these
Hmm.
emails like,
Yeah.
well, how do I do this? I'm like, well, we talk about it every month
Hmm.
in our monthly newsletter. I was like,
Hmm.
it's right there. Oh, okay. But it's the same thing. They didn't have a need for it before, so they didn't look at it.
Right.
Now they do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
that's the nature of the beast. It's
Repetitive.
human nature.
Hmm.
As
Yep.
so you just need to continue to
Hmm.
put that stuff out there and repeat and go through and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
So
Chris, I'm curious, was there a moment in your career that changed how you thought about leadership?
oof, that's a great question. Yeah, I think I'm a different leader in franchising than I was before. I think coming in here, and it probably didn't happen right away either. It probably took me 2 years to figure out, I was like, ooh, I better
Yeah.
change some things here. This isn't going to go well.
Yeah.
So that was big. I transitioned, as you know, I'm an attorney and I was a trial lawyer. And when I went into business, I'm like, really like, I like having one client when I went in
Mm-hmm.
as a general counsel for a company. So it's like, that was fun. But then as I started to progress, I went into some leadership roles.
Hmm.
I'm like, wow, the whole lawyer thing, it's great because it teaches you how to think and how to solve problems,
Hmm.
but it doesn't do a great job on how am I effective leader?
Yeah. And
And
managing.
and
Yeah.
so I'm an avid reader,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to start reading some things on this, and some leadership books and different things, how people were successful and
Hmm.
what they did, and then you try and take that. And it's like, well, my personality is X, and okay, I can't be that person, but I need to morph into
Hmm.
use the basics that I learned from that, and make it my own, that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Okay.
So,
Awesome. I'm curious, we talked a little bit about the franchising industry and where it's headed, what, the change management that's coming through and the challenges that leaders are facing. In one sentence, what do you think franchising needs more of?
oof, what do we need more of? Well, I think we are on the verge or the precipice with AI,
Oh, yeah.
and it's going to dramatically change everything, including franchising.
Mhm.
So I would say that I would love to see more support and the IFA, you know, coming up with some things that from an AI perspective and tools that our vendors are going to use and that sort of thing. Like
Mhm.
just like how do we get that? How do we get there as
Mhm.
quickly as possible? I just a friend of mine checked into a hotel and he's like, there was nobody there. I'm like, what? He goes,
Yeah.
there was a kiosk and a guy showed up and checked me in virtually. So he starts chatting the guy. I was like, I've never seen this before. This is
Yeah.
amazing. I was like, can you get your key and the whole bit? And even when you checked in here, you
Oh,
saw
yeah.
the change
Yeah.
coming. And the guy that was, he's like, yeah, I work for 6 hotels. I'm working for 6 hotels now. Like, so he's doing it all virtually, checking people in 6
Mhm.
hotels. I'm like, well, he's like, number one, wow.
Yeah.
Number two, you start thinking about the cost savings for each
Oh,
one of
yeah.
those
Right.
hotels. And then I said, well, how was the experience? He's like, it was great. It's
Mhm.
like, no problems at all. Went through the whole thing. I'd love to see programs, that we have that help small businesses, that help
Mhm.
franchisors, that help franchisees embrace that in their business to become so
Mhm.
much more efficient,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think it'll be phenomenal. I'm really excited about what AI is
Mhm.
doing, and I'm scared too.
Well, it's the
But
unknown, right?
yeah,
It is what
but
you can embrace change, but there is always that human nature of fear and the unknown.
and you think back to the beginning of digital
Mhm.
advertising, back to
Yeah.
2000, where I was there, or now I
Yeah.
worked with a digital advertiser, and I'm like, all these things that were going to happen, this kind of thing, and now they've all come to fruition.
Mhm.
I worked for a precursor to Amazon, really,
Mhm.
a company called Outpost.com, and we had this is before Amazon even existed. We had an end of runway solution, so you could order your tech, your computer, your tech, and as long as you order by midnight, it would be on your desk by 10 a.m.
Oh, wow.
And it was a big techie site. It was great. We
Yeah.
sold our best year. We were a public company. We sold $450 million in goods. We never made a dime. It's like
Like any good tech company.
it's like, we were this close to making it. We sold. It was a whole thing. But you just look at it as like, we are just too early.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so, I had an investor one time tell me, he goes, yeah, I don't know the difference between a failed company and a company that's too early. I was like, yeah, but we were too early. It's like, look what Amazon did. It's like, we didn't do
Right.
that, but
Right.
we were doing it for this. So it's just kind of like timing is everything. AI is the change is so rapid,
Mhm.
so rapid.
Yeah.
I mean, so much, how long did it take us to refine search and Google and
Oh,
that sort of
yeah.
thing? It's like,
Right.
years. This is going to be months. I
Mhm.
mean, it really is. And it's just going to continue.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, what do you think the industry needs less of?
Oof. Left That's another really good question. I took away from, Kat's talk today
Yeah.
that actually on Monday when I go back to the
Mhm.
office, ask my team, is like, "What's the one thing you think you should stop doing or we
Yeah.
should stop doing?"
Well, and to that point, there is especially with AI, and never-ending thirst for more of what is the next tool? How do we stay ahead? How do we add on, add on, add on? One thing I do see brands struggle with in my purview is saying no and understanding where to prioritize and how to prioritize so that you can say no when the time arises. Because if you say yes to everything, you don't have time to do anything. And so I think, to your point, spinning that and taking it to your team to say, if we're doing too much, we're not doing anything well. So what should be stopped?
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Hmm.
It's interesting too with AI, we talk about, one of the things maybe we could do less of is I have franchisees that some are great at it.
Hmm.
Some not so much, but they're like, look what I've done, and they're producing these videos and different things for them, but they're way off brand
Right.
and they're
Yes.
like questionable. And I'm like, you have to stop that. You
Yeah.
can't do that. Oh, you're stifling my creative. I'm like, no, I
Hmm.
was like, I love it.
Right.
I embrace it. I said, but here's our brand standards. I was
Standards,
like,
right?
take a look at this. And
Yeah.
that's, one of the things we've been doing over the last few years is really trying to enforce that
Hmm.
slowly. Like, we took everybody's signatures
Hmm.
and now we control the signatures. So we
Hmm.
give everybody their GoMini's email and they all have, you can customize it a little bit, but
Hmm.
it's a standard and it comes from a server.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it gets on every email is the same because
And
we
it
had,
professionalizes the
and
experience. Yeah.
just a small step into like,
That's right.
it's our brand. We're
That's
trying
right.
to
Yeah.
protect our brand.
Hmm.
And then when someone puts their own social media post up there and it's off brand, I'm like, you got
Hmm.
to take that down.
Yeah.
I was like, and
Hmm.
I think we've done over the last few years a great job of our social posts and
Hmm.
those things have gotten so much better.
Hmm. Yeah.
And we have a professional marketing team that helps us with that as
Hmm.
well. And we make that all available. And there's plenty of stuff to do. And
Hmm.
we don't mind if they do their own, but again, just be on brand.
Yeah. Well, and so we talked a lot about the focus that GoMinis has right now around conversion rates, driving the adoption of tools down to the franchisees, supporting the franchisees, really developing the standards. It sounds to me like over the course of the time that you've been with the brand, you've really, I know we like to say professionalized the experience. And I think that you hit the nail on the head in that last comment around protecting the standards of the brand so that we have a brand,
Right.
so that we are positioning ourselves to be the trusted brand for the pivot that you needed to make for B2B,
Mhm.
right? And without investing in becoming that trusted brand, that pivot is harder. And so making those investments and identifying those resources early.
Oh, absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely, and that, I think sometimes franchisees don't see it.
Yeah.
It's like, "No, this is what we offer. This is like we've been around for a long time, been around
Hmm.
since 2000 with this
Hmm.
brand." I say, and the people that our customers see it and they know it,
Hmm.
and it's got to be consistent in there.
Yeah.
It really is important,
Hmm.
and sometimes it's like it gets lost.
Yeah. So if you're successful in driving these initiatives and driving the speed of change down to Go Minis, what do you think the next, or what do you think, where do you think Go Minis is going to be in 10 years?
Ooh. I think, that, the things we're trying to do right now, my hope is that every franchisee is making more money and growing.
Hmm.
So the idea is we really want franchisees that are bought in, that are like, okay, I'm at 80% occupied. I need to order more containers. Where we have
Mm-hmm.
folks now, it's like, I'm at 80% occupied. This is great. And you
Yes.
sit there and
Right.
then, because we have all these B2B customers, you can never be out of containers. You have to serve them.
Hmm.
So I see from a growth perspective, I would like to see in 10 years that we're not double the size at least of
Hmm.
where we are in terms of containers in the marketplace, franchisees, dots on the map.
Hmm. Hmm.
We have a long distance moving program we call Go Mini Miles. One of the issues we have is we don't have coverage. So we get a
Hmm.
lot of requests
Hmm.
every day, but we don't have a franchisee there. And
Hmm.
I hate that. It's
Yeah.
like, here's business we could give
Yeah.
to a franchisee,
Hmm.
and maybe we have one location, we don't have both. So I'm hoping that there's more dots on the map.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I actually think there will be, I'll have less franchisees, but more
Hmm.
coverage,
Yeah.
because I think that, like every brand, you have some franchisees that are really bought in, see the value of the business, and they're going to be scooping up some of the other guys who are
Right.
maybe retiring,
Yeah.
or like, hey, I don't want to put the investment in at this time
Hmm.
because they have other priorities and that sort of
Hmm.
thing. So I think, and I've seen it, like most of my sales are to existing
Hmm.
franchisees
Yeah.
because they understand it.
That's the best. I mean,
Yeah.
driving that organic growth really showcases the health of a brand.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think that they'll be, acquiring,
Hmm.
other folks that are, it's time for them to move on,
Hmm.
that sort of thing, which,
Yeah.
I think is a good thing, because the guys that are really, when you look at my top third, they're
Hmm.
the guys who are really, really getting it done, really
Hmm.
making the investment, not afraid to buy containers,
Hmm.
not afraid to invest in their marketing,
Hmm.
and really see this as a viable business, and they want a long term.
Well, thank you for joining me today, Chris. It was awesome to hear more about Go Minis and the focus that you're bringing to that brand.
Great.
I
Great to
really
see you
appreciate it.
again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You by my podcast host.